Hey guys, it's KD here with a video around Relics and 1v1 Huns, and just talking you through about Relic and Relic control. So, when you're playing 1v1 Huns, you're going to do the standard thing, as I've mentioned in previous videos, building your barracks, building your stables, building your archery ranges, etc, etc. And there's going to come a point where you're going to obviously go ahead and start to bolt on your siege workshops. You're going to start to look at things that I covered off before about map control, where you're placing your castles and how you're picking up your gold. And then after that, once you've started to get a few things down and secure, you've started to venture out, starting to pick up these gold points around the map. You're then also going to want to look at collecting relics. So relics are just really important in any kind of 1v1 setup, really. They're dubbed down in things like team game for the very specific reason that you've got trade, so kind of gold's a little bit less valued because of trade. Once you've got enough of the gold around you, you can invest 10-20% of your gold income into trade, and then that's just kind of self-perpetuating. You don't need to worry anymore. But with relics, they gain, if you get all 5, upwards of 5 gold a second. That's game seconds. And that's a lot of gold to be getting. So you really want to be able to capitalize on that and gain those. So I would say that personally, when I'm playing 1v1 Huns, if I can remember to, because sometimes you've got a lot of other things going on, but you kind of want to make sure that you do use some early gold for this purpose. You're going to want to bolt on, say, for example, 3. I do 3. I mean, it's up to you how many you want to do here. But 3 monasteries. And the reason I go with 3 is because there's 5 on the map. And if you build 1 monk from 3 monasteries, one, you're not wasting too much wood. Personally, I find fewer than 3. Something like 2. Obviously, you might pick up 2, but you might be slow to pick up the 3rd. But with 3, it means you can collect those 3 very, very quickly. So the way which I personally do it is simply just to click, or however I want to do it. I personally click on the monastery, so I just go back, clicking on the monastery, and then what I would do is, once I've clicked on those monasteries and I've selected those relics that I want to grab, is then I would go ahead and build monks out to those particular relics. Now, the benefit of doing this early on in the game is, of course, that it's unlikely that your opponent will necessarily build close to those, would have had any sort of defensive structures or even line of sight out of fog of war on those relics. Some players, namely people that I've seen play 1v1 high competitively, probably the most famous I've seen for Relic War was between Jidba and Viper 1v1. That was an immense game where they really fought over relics. They both knew that they were equally matched in 1v1s, Huns pretty much, and there was just this really tough micro battle over picking up the relics. And in the end, Viper actually won that game because he just seemed to outboom and just do really, really well in that game. So relics are really, really important, and to be honest with you, as I mentioned in my previous video, because taking gold and obtaining gold is sort of the overarching sort of strategy. You want to deny your opponent from gold. I mean, the AI's denied me on this relic even, but because it's so important, sending a couple of paladins down to deny relics, even if it's just 1, you only need 1, because the likelihood is your enemy is not going to send any sort of offensive units along with the monk to secure that relic. So you don't need to worry too much there. But of course, if they do put something down beside it, like a paladin or 2, that can be really big. I mean, one of the probably things that I see players failing on, though, is sometimes that they secure them with some defense, but then they forget to pick them up. And I mean, sometimes as well, if you stand units, so like the blue of my color, if I stand it too close to a relic, say for example I took this scout, this relic's just disappeared, otherwise I would have shown you guys, but basically, sometimes you can cover off the white that you see on the map for that particular relic. So when you've actually got the relics and you hear it, because you're waiting for audio cues when you're playing 1v1 Huns most of the time, and it's quite a distinctive sound, you know, diddling, you know, it's pretty much of a distinctive sound. But what I personally do is then I have Y to select my monasteries, and what I'm really doing is I'm just going around them, and I'm just, as I hear them, I'm looking for the X that marks the spot on the minimap, basically. And when I see that, and I see that they've collected it, I will literally just go to my particular monastery and just look at the little arrow on the minimap for that, and then just bring them on home. And it's as simple as that, really. As I say, 3 for me, I feel that comfortable. You're not wasting too much gold or food right at the beginning of the game. Yes, okay, there is an investment of wood. I mean, how much do these actually cost? What, 175 wood each? So, you know, that's quite a bit of an investment for 3 of those, you know, straight off the bat, especially if you've chosen something like a market strategy, and then it's 300 gold as well, because it's 100 gold per monk, and that's obviously assuming that they don't get killed either, or that there's any kind of battle over the relics themselves. But you know, this is I personally find, you know, having it hotkeyed and then just going around and looking at the minimap where you actually put down those X's is just a really good way of being able to fly around the map really quickly and see where you put them, and then go straight to them and then pick them back up and put them back into the monastery. Because usually when you've sent a monk, genuinely you just forget where on earth you've actually sent your monk to go and pick up their relic. And you know, obviously things like, as I mentioned in my previous video, you know, just tying this in with map control, you know, map control is really important, because if you do manage to take, say for example I took this hill and I was taking this hill because it was my forward point, and say there was like, you know, 3 relics towards this kind of bottom part of the map, you know, if they're in my territory, as it were, it's unlikely, or it's going to be harder for the enemy to get to it. You know, for example, if you just send a monk on its own, I mean, you saw what happened to my monk when it went up near this castle, and most of the time that's exactly what's going to happen. It's just going to be a blind kind of zombie of your monk going towards the relic. There's not going to be too much control unless your opponent actually spots that monk going into an offensive structure like a castle and decides to sort of turn it round. So that's all I've got to say on Relics, really, guys. I hope you like this video. Please comment, please subscribe. You know, please continue to like my videos, and I'll see you guys again soon.